Greetings from Tokyo, my friends. This is Daisuke, and how are you doing today? I hope you are doing very, very well. So, I'd like to continue with my discussion of my favorite releases from the Criterion Collection in this year, 2019. This time, I would like to focus my attention, if you don't mind, on the essays. So, as you know, the Criterion Collection releases films on DVD and on Blu-ray. And every time and on every occasion of such a release, the Criterion Collection will include an essay on the film, which is written by a scholar, a film critic, an expert, a fan, something along those lines, that will provide some kind of pointed and direct insight into the particular film in question. These are the essays, and they are usually contained in a kind of booklet or maybe a fold-out or an insert that is found in every physical media release of the Criterion Collection. They are very oftentimes incredibly helpful, and they are always essential reads, in my opinion. So the essays are well worth discussing, my friends, and definitely worth a look if you have the opportunity. Now, the essays are also, for the most part anyway, I think, always available and made available on the Criterion website free of charge. And so you can always take a look there for these essays. And I think the essays that I will be talking about in this video can be found on the website. So I will try to leave links where I can in the description box below so you can take a look at those essays, as well as essays with other titles that I might not necessarily mention here today, because there's too many for me to be able to address adequately and appropriately in one single video. For purposes of this video, I'd like to talk about my 5 favorite essays from Criterion releases from this year, 2019. As I say, this is my own list, and so my list will probably vary and be different from your own list, which is, I think, very great. Also, I can honestly admit that this is the list that I have as of this point in time now. It could change this time tomorrow, and these lists are very difficult for me to prepare because, among other reasons, they are lists that I find myself changing my mind a lot because there are just so many of these essays for me to choose from. Just as I say, too many essays for me to be able to discuss all of them with adequate time. So I have this list of 5 favorite essays as of now. So I hope you can enjoy this video. Finally, I would suggest that maybe it's probably better to not read an essay from the Criterion Collection until you have seen the film, because sometimes reading the essay might give stuff away, or the writer of the essay will probably assume that the reader of the essay will have already seen the film. And so, just in case, my friends, I would suggest that if you haven't seen the films yet, first watch the films and then you can read the essay at any time. I think it's better to watch the film first and then read the essay instead of vice versa. But with those notes out of the way, now let me get to my 5 favorite essays from Criterion releases from this year, 2019. Number 5. This is from spy number 963. The film in question is To Sleep with Anger. To Sleep with Anger. Now, the essay is found on one of these fold-out inserts that turns into a kind of poster, and then on the back we have the essay written in these long, large columns that go from top to bottom here. And then with cast and crew and transfer information and criterion release information along the side here. But the essay plus a little picture is what makes up the majority of the area of this particular back sheet of the poster, this fold-out poster. The essay in question is called You Never Know What's in the Heart, and this is by Ashley Clark. Ashley Clark provides some wonderful insight into this incredibly interesting work of art, To Sleep with Anger. I don't know if you've seen this yet. If you haven't, I would suggest that you take a look. It has a very interesting, and I would say at times bold story, with at its center the performance by Danny Glover, who is both charming and quite charismatic on the one hand, and yet also very enigmatic, mysterious, and also there is a kind of edge of discomfort, not quite knowing where one is. And so this is at the heart, I think, of this film, which speaks to a lot. And I think Ashley Clark in his essay really gets at some of these, or not some, all of these points in a very well-written way. In his essay, he talks about the film itself. He gives really a nice, curt, yet clear introduction into the film and what it is about. And also that gives him therefore an opportunity to go into the filmmaking and the way in which the film is. Well, actually, I should take a step back. He also goes into the film in the context of the career of the writer-director Charles Burnett and his sensibilities as a filmmaker in the films that he made up to film To Sleep with Anger. And then this is also very important because Charles Burnett is one of those really important filmmakers. And if you haven't heard of Charles Burnett, then I really strongly recommend that you check out some of his work. Perhaps his most well-regarded work critically, or perhaps the one that might be of interest to those who haven't seen a work by Charles Burnett yet, is the film Killer of Sheep. But also To Sleep with Anger, too, is one that I think is well worth watching. But the essay goes into the career and background of the filmmaker, Mr. Burnett, with great clarity and ease of entry. But then it goes, therefore, into similarities with Burnett's other works to this particular film, and that helps to augment and to highlight specific aspects of this film, character traits, the relationships between adults and children, the portrayal of children, the portrayal of adults, the connections with sort of familial connections, and also the ties with a cultural tradition. Ashley Clark refers to the Old South tradition and how the film seems to be echoing or hearkening back to certain aspects of that. There are also aspects of the performances themselves, and in particular Danny Glover, and certain scenes which seem to foreshadow things to come with respect to the characters and certain revelations and certain developments that occur. And also the critical response, some comments on the critical response of the film at the time of its initial release. So there is and also finally I should say that Ashley Clark also gives a good discussion about how this film, To Sleep with Anger, seems to fall in the context of this particular period and this particular part of American cinema, and how it falls into the fabric of American cinema at the time, which was 1990. So, and this was a very exciting period, not only in terms of American cinema, but also the kind of emergence of, or maybe a combination, if you will, or a convergence between certain rise in commercial interests on the one hand, and the spirit of American independent cinema on the other. And so this falls somewhere in that period, and I think it's a very significant period. And Ashley Clark places this film in that context, I think, very well to sort of round out the essay. So once again, the essay is You Never Know What's in the Heart by Ashley Clark, and it is found on the release of To Sleep with Anger. It is a wonderful essay, my friends, and so if you have a chance, please visit the essay. And if that means watching the film, of course, I would strongly suggest watching this really interesting work, which is To Sleep with Anger. Next, this is my number 4 choice. This is Spy Number 1004. The film is Now Voyager, and the essay is found in a stapled booklet, which is the insert found with the Blu-ray of this. There are a number of essays actually here, but the essay that I wanted to speak about is the first essay, which is found in this booklet, which is called We Have the Stars. We Have the Stars, and it is written by Patricia White. I really love this essay. The essay feels, and I mean this in a positive, complimentary way, the essay feels a little bit longer than some other essays found in the Criterion Collection, which is great. You know, I think if the Criterion Collection could provide longer essays, I think that would just be wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Here we have quite a good, substantial essay from Patricia White, who is professor and chair of the Department of Film and Media Studies at Swarthmore College, and also the author of Women's Cinema, World Cinema, Projecting Contemporary Feminisms, as well as other works. What is great about Patricia White's essay is this really organizes the information so clearly and with such a wonderful, well-written approach. There's a lot to talk about with this film, I think. Not only were we talking about the period in which it was made, you know, the early 1940s, also Warner Brothers and Bette Davis, and also the subject matter and the story, the fact that it was an adaptation of a work, but also it was a kind of a star vehicle for Bette Davis. But also the subject matter of the film is very complex, and it goes into areas not only of melodrama and human drama, but also in terms of psychoanalysis and an approach to psychoanalytical approaches to trying to remedy the human heart, at least in the context of the characters as we find them here in Now Voyager. There is actually quite a lot to have to discuss when we're trying to endeavor to begin a discussion of this film, Now Voyager, which is a remarkably entertaining film, very moving, and with a powerhouse set of performances from everyone concerned. I would point out in particular Claude Rains and also Gladys Cooper, and of course Bette Davis. Her Charlotte Vale is just a revelation in many ways, and the way that Bette Davis plays that character is really quite remarkable. There are really shades of nuance with respect to the psychology of this particular character and how she might seem to be somewhat maybe self-destructive or somewhat lacking in confidence, but there are developments that occur in the story that help her to see a truer part of herself and a kind of awakening. But the film is not just a straightforward story of awakening, because it does show us that even with this kind of journey of awakening, there comes with it issues of complexity that are not black and white, that are shades of gray, meaning that they are quite complicated by virtue of the fact that we are dealing with characters that are human beings. And I love that about this film. I love how it doesn't provide clear answers, because as we know, human lives, right, don't always provide the Hollywood answers. They provide the answers of daily life, which are not always the clear black and white things that we might otherwise see in an other so-called conventional Hollywood film. So with all this stuff, what I love about this essay is that this essay by Patricia White touches on all of these aspects incredibly skillfully. And there is a discussion of the subject matter. There's a discussion of the original novel source. There is also discussion of sort of Hollywood politics. There is a discussion of acting and the way in which this film figures into for example, the filmography of the great Bette Davis. And also there are aspects of the human drama, the subject matter, how this was maybe in many respects quite an unusual type of narrative for this particular time period and this particular part of cinema. So, and other things like that which make this a compelling read. This essay by Ms. Patricia White, which is We Have the Stars, is really a brilliant essay. And so I strongly urge anyone who is interested in this movie, who watched this movie, who loves this movie, to give this essay a good read, because it is so worth it. So once again, the essay is by Patricia White. It's called We Have the Stars, and what a lovely title that is. We Have the Stars, and it is found in the booklet, which is the insert for the Criterion release of Now Voyager. Next, this is spine number 958. This is the film 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. And the essay is found in the insert, which is a sort of fold-out insert for the release, this one that I have. This is an essay called Late Term, and it is by Ella Taylor. And once again, it is in respect of the film 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. The film by Christian Mungiu from 2007. This is a film that is very challenging, quite difficult, not for everyone, that is for sure. And so if you haven't seen this film yet, I would just urge you to take a look at the Criterion website. Just look at the description in the Criterion website, just to be sure that it's okay with you. If not, then perhaps it might be best to just give this one a pass. Again, it depends on what you want to get out of cinema and how you feel with your own interests and the like. You know, you don't have to watch every single film from the Criterion Collection. There is no rule that says that. But that being said, the subject matter is incredibly tough, and I think that's what makes this film very challenging. The film presents this tough, challenging subject matter with a breathtaking honesty and a real strength of nerve with certain choices, certain really striking choices that are made throughout the film that give it an undeniable edge of tension, sorrow, triumph, confusion, and a kind of feeling of uncertainty. This is therefore an unbelievably effective work of art. Now, the essay by Ella Taylor is so vivid in its choice of words, and that is a good thing, because the way it's written, the style of the essay is brilliant. I love it because it also goes into the film and what it's trying to do in its narrative. Now, if we recall, the film is taking place in the late 1980s, and so we are trying, or the film is undeniably talking about the sort of the political state of Romania at this time, and it is undeniable how this situation figures into the narrative thrust of the film. And so what's great about this essay is it gives us enough of a link to that, enough of a discussion to give us maybe some kind of position where we can try, therefore, to gain a better appreciation for those of us who are unfamiliar with this part of European history. So I think that is really quite helpful. And it goes also into the movie aspects of the film. It goes into the thriller aspects of the film. It also goes into the film almost like a horror film. So I love its use, this essay and its discussion of genre and cinema and European history, contemporary European history. And also not just that, there is a sort of societal commentary being made with this film, which is also quite evident in how certain scenarios with the main characters are played out, in this idea of bureaucracy, the bureaucratic mentality. These aspects are to the fore quite strikingly, and the essay by Ella Taylor goes into this aspect also very, very well. And finally, we talk about this film in the context of what is known as a kind of new Romanian cinema, or a new wave of Romanian cinema. One of the great things about this Criterion release as a whole is that for someone like myself, who is not at all an expert in Romanian cinema or the new wave of Romanian cinema, this release provides some great supplemental material that gives excellent introductory primer background into the contemporary Romanian cinema and the aspects of this. And so I think part of that also is the essay discussion by Ella Taylor, and it discusses this film in the context of this development in Romanian cinema. And Mungiu's work is undoubtedly so integral to that, and this film in particular is so integral to that. And but ultimately, this film touches us and touches me in a way that is it moves me quite fundamentally, and I find that remarkable because it is a film that, as I alluded to earlier in this discussion, is dealing with themes and a particular part of European history that I am not directly familiar with, and yet I feel so affected when I see this film. And I think the essay by Ella Taylor goes into that as well. It's talking about the way in which this film works. Not only it talks about it in the context of different genres of cinema also, but also how it works, how it touches us fundamentally, deeply, as a viewer, as a human being. And I love that. And I love how Ella Taylor's essay ends that discussion, or ends the essay with that discussion in a kind of giving us a feeling of uncertainty. We're not sure of what's going to happen, and there is a feeling of a sort of an undeniable yet unspoken sense of dread. There are certain triumphs in the film and as well, which is also alluded to in the essay, but there is also a sense of dread and feeling of unease, a palpable unease, which is what Ella Taylor goes into also very well with her use of vivid language that really grabs you from the get-go. So I am so taken with this essay by Ella Taylor, and I recommend it strongly. So this is the essay called Late Term by Ella Taylor, and it is found on the insert of the booklet, which is included with the Criterion release of 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. Next is Spy number 1006. The film is The Story of Temple Drake. The essay is found in the fold-out insert leaflet, which is included with this, which is the Blu-ray. Now, if we open this up, we can see the essay beginning here. This is called Notorious by Jeffrey O'Brien. And the essay is talking about a film which is itself quite a unique viewing experience, and it is one that I highly recommend. It is a kind of a tough story, and it is told in a very strikingly honest manner, and I really appreciate that about the film. And I think a main reason for that feeling of honesty is due in large part, or not due in large part, but due to, primarily to, the central performance given here by Miriam Hopkins. Her performance anchors this film in a way that is it is essential, and it's a phenomenal performance given the subject matter and given the trials and tribulations that the character of Temple Drake, the namesake of the film, goes through. It is quite a whirlwind of events, starting from the seemingly simple and innocent, and then gradually leading to a much more sinister world. And the choices that have to be made by the characters in this world will, I think, leave one maybe shocked, speechless perhaps, but will certainly leave one with much to think about. This is the story of Temple Drake, and please check it out if you haven't already. Now, with that in mind, my friends, the essay by Jeffrey O'Brien is so it's vivid. It is imaginative in terms of what it conjures up. It uses language so well, and it helps the reader to think of these images in one's mind and think of the film almost like not just a courtroom drama. It's not just a story of it's not a sort of a harrowing drama about this particular young woman. It is also, in the tone and context that Jeffrey O'Brien provides in the essay, it could almost be described kind of like maybe almost a gothic film, almost a film noir type of film. These are sort of tones that are evoked, I think, by the language that Jeffrey O'Brien uses. But what I think gives the essay a real advantage is its focus on, as I said, the great performance by Miriam Hopkins, and also some insight into how the actor Miriam Hopkins viewed this particular work, viewed this particular role, and also talking about the character of Temple Drake. I want to suggest to you that the character is really a complicated character. It's really, really complicated, and thus I think it's sometimes very difficult for me to get a full grasp of this. Well, given that situation that I find myself in, I think the essay by Jeffrey O'Brien really helps me to see what the context of some of the choices that the character makes is, and also talks about the situations that befall this character and how the character deals with it, and also how what the general feelings were about these particular scenarios, and also what what Miriam Hopkins' own take on the character and what happens to the character throughout the film, and how she felt it was portrayed, and these other aspects of the film, as well as the sort of technical aspects of the filmmaking itself, give this essay a real kind of must-read quality, in my opinion, for a film that is brilliant and difficult and shocking, and so captivating and fascinating. The essay is, once again, Notorious by Jeffrey O'Brien, and is included in the fold-out booklet, which is found with the release by Criterion of the film The Story of Temple Drake. Next is what I consider to be, I think, my favorite essay from a Criterion Collection release in 2019. It is for the film Spy Number 980. The film in question is La Vie de Jésus, and the essay can be found in the insert, which is again one of these fold-outs, and the essay is called The Sky Above by Nicholas Elliott. This film, La Vie de Jésus, is, I think, among the contenders for being one of the most challenging, difficult, shocking works for a number of reasons. So once again, it's a film that is not for everyone, due to what some might consider to be a depiction of characters that are not necessarily likable, due to what some might consider to be a plot that might be considered to be meandering, due perhaps to what some might consider to be too frank depictions of human sexuality and the like. However, I think that if anyone were to come to me with those sorts of criticisms of the film, I wouldn't necessarily try to convince such persons to change their mind, change their view of that. I mean, that I think the film is so challenging that I completely understand one's take on this. For me, I find it to be a remarkable revelation in the fact that it is such a difficult film with such difficult subject matter. It becomes an almost I think in its deliberate pace, it almost surprises me in how it reaches the resolutions that it does, and in its really frank depictions of sexuality. I think we are talking about characters that are human beings, and that are operating and that are living their lives in a way that can be seen from certain aspects to be a sort of simplistic life, but also can be seen to be aspects of life that are just as just as affected, just as complicated, and just as nuanced as even the most historically remarkable personages in history. In other words, I think this film provides us with yet a quite a vivid portrayal of humanity in all of its glorious, beautiful aspects and its quiet, intimate moments, as well as the ugly, as well as the not so nice, and as well as the quite horrifying and disgusting aspects of human nature. It is all here in this film, and it provides me with a powerful and challenging and vivid portrayal of this human nature, set in the context of the story of these particular people in this village. And so I find it to be a great work. Once again, it is not for everyone, and I am the first to acknowledge that. So don't worry if this film isn't for you. But it is, I acknowledge, a very difficult work and a challenging work, and therefore it's definitely not for everyone. But if you are okay with this type of film, then it is definitely worth an examination, because it really makes one consider what it all means and how this can be seen as perhaps a story of redemption, or perhaps it is a story of anti-redemption, or perhaps it is a story of the ugliness of humanity, or perhaps it is a story of kind of day-to-day life of this sort of maybe working class part of the population. And thus it might be seen in an interesting way to be a modern-day take on cinematic neorealism, with hints of Bresson along the way. Whatever one's take is, I think what is clear is that it is a very complex and I think, for me anyway, very difficult film. I admire it very much, but I admit also that it is a very difficult film. So I think the supplements on this release really helped me. The essay, though, is what really puts it over the top for me. I find this essay to be so helpful and such a great further support for why this film is heralded the way it is heralded, and how this film deals with ambiguity of human existence. It is filled with so much ambiguity. We're not sure if we're dealing with totally bad people or redeemable people, or bad people with redeemable qualities, or that sort of thing. But regardless, the complex nature of this film leads to different interpretations, and I think all of those modes of thinking are being addressed in this essay, The Sky Above, by Nicholas Elliott, with a real skill of writing and a way that pays respect to the mysteries and the possibilities of interpretation in many ways that this film presents. And I find, therefore, this essay to be incredibly brilliant. What I also appreciate about this is the fact that the essayist Nicholas Elliott also goes into the ambiguities of this film and the aspects of religion that are touched upon, I think, rather obliquely by the film, but also quite directly, but given the very fact that it is titled the way it is titled, La Vie de Jésus, which is translated into English, I believe, as The Life of Jesus. Now, this film, as you may know, does not directly depict the Jesus or Jesus Christ. So it is not a direct explanation of the story in those terms, but it is still titled the way it is titled, and I think there is a reason for that, or there are some possible reasons for that. Now, I should leave that to the interpretations and minds of each of the viewers, you who decide to watch this film or who have watched this film, and to try to figure out how exactly, if at all, religion and sort of religious awakening, for lack of a better phrase, play into this film, if at all, and if you agree with that stance or if not. Now, what's great about the essay is that this essay touches on this theme so head-on and with great skill and understanding, and also, once again, with a great deal of respect for the ambiguity that this film presents. In other words, the essayist gives us these possibilities of interpretation but does not impose upon us these readings on the film. But these are just possibilities, and I think, once again, just going back to the fundamental aspect and nature of this film, its ambiguity and richness give us a nice way to interpret the film in many different ways. There are different possibilities, and so this aspect of religion and religious awakening, or lack thereof, depending on one's point of view, is also at the heart of this film, undeniably. And the fact that the essayist Nicholas Elliott addresses this so well, I think, gives this essay a great sense of importance. Really, again, another must-read from my point of view. So this is the essay, The Sky Above, by Nicholas Elliott, for, I think, one of the most challenging films. But if it's okay with you, and the subject matter is okay with you, and you can stick around to the end, I think it really has the potential of providing some how should I put it? Some feelings of having seen something that makes you think, and it moves you quite deeply. This film is just remarkable in that aspect, and I really want to thank the Criterion Collection for providing us with this essay by Nicholas Elliott and giving us further context as to how to better appreciate this film, at least for me, how I am able to better appreciate this film. So thank you very much, Criterion, for giving us this essay with respect to the film La Vie de Jésus. Okay, my friends, that's it for now. So once again, there were so many essays in the Criterion Collection, too many to count, my friends, and so I might not have addressed all of the essays to your liking or satisfaction. If that's the case, then I sincerely apologize. That wasn't my intent at all. But I just wanted to discuss these because at least these essays were ones that I especially found quite interesting. There are, of course, many others that I could have spoken about, but these are the ones that I wanted to speak to you about today. So I encourage you, please, to check these out. But once again, check them out if you have seen the films already. And as I said before, there are many other films with many other essays that are worth talking about. If there are some essays that you think are worth any particular mention, please feel free to do so in the comment section below. I would love to hear what it is you have to say. And also, they don't necessarily have to be Criterion release essays. They can be essays from other labels. As we know, many labels do provide great essay work, not just Criterion, although Criterion does as well. So if you want to share with me or with anyone else here some great essay recommendations, please, I would so love to see those. So please feel free to do so in the comment section below. Okay, my friends, so thank you very much for watching. So I will continue these discussions in future videos. In the meantime, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. So until we meet again, my friends, cheers.